Just by the sheer fact that you've decided to watch this video, there's a fair chance that fear plays a part in your life or the life of a loved one or somebody that you know. Now, I've been working, guiding, coaching, leading in the outdoors since the age of 16, almost 30 years now. Now you know how old I am. And what I've identified is that everybody, as they're growing and developing in the outdoors, reaches a threshold where they experience a form of fear. For some people, it's the fear of heights. Other people, it's the fear of drowning, fear of water, fear of spiders, fear of snakes, fear of camping solo, fear of falling out off a sailing boat. There's 1,000,001 different fears that people can have. But what I found is that this fear becomes a limiting thing in how somebody grows and develops in the outdoors. In fact, if it's not dealt with, actually that fear can become limiting in your progression or in your enjoyment of the outdoors. It could even be the thing that turns you off the outdoors to go and find a safer, less fearful pursuit. A few years ago, I worked with a group of young people, developing them to be better whitewater kayakers. I took them on a section of whitewater which was renowned to be pretty complicated, but also it was a section of whitewater that was your introductory introduction at that hardness of whitewater, at that grade. On that river, or that section river, as with all or most rivers, there were rapids with names like Hell Hole, Pit of Intrepid Doom, Euthanasia, Commercial Suicide, and the list goes on. One of the young people who I was with kept saying to me, "Rob, you will stop before we get to euthanasia, won't you? You will tell me when it is." And I said, yes, of course I would do, but nevertheless this was playing in the back of his mind. And that fear of euthanasia decreased his skill level to the point where he could barely sit upright on the easy bits in between rapids, let alone contend with what he was physically competent to do, which was the harder sections of whitewater. You see, the fear in his mind was reducing his ability to perform. And maybe you've experienced that in yourself. Now, there's two different sorts of fear, by the way. There's rational fear, and there is not rational fear. So rational fear would be a fear of if I jump off this cliff and there's concrete underneath and I hit it, I'm afraid I'm going to die. Very rational. There's then the level of not rational fear, which is that if I jump off this cliff, I'm going to hit the water and I might die, even though tens of hundreds of people have done it before you and been perfectly fine. There's a fair chance, if everybody else is fine at a similar skill level to you, that you'll be fine as well. And yet something in your head says, don't do it, or your heart races, or maybe your brain just fogs up a little bit. So in this session, I'm going to take you through a strategy that you can use to start to control your fear. In part 2 of this, I'm going to offer another strategy. But let's go and jump into this tool that you can use to overcome your fear. So this tool I'm going to give you now is called box breathing. You may have heard of it before. Box breathing comes from the world of the Special Forces and is particularly famous for being used by United States Navy SEALs. Box breathing does a whole series of things, but the reason why I want to give it to you first is because it's completely free, completely in your control, and you can do it anywhere at any point in time. So what is it that box breathing is and what is it that it does? Well, I'll take you through exactly how to do box breathing in a second. However, as a means of introduction beyond what I've already said, box breathing gives your mind the opportunity to focus on just one thing, your breathing, and to clear your mind of all other thoughts. When your mind is empty and you're focused on breathing, it then buys you the opportunity to focus on what it is that you can do, as opposed to what it is that you cannot, or what it is that your brain is telling you you should be fearful of. Now, of course, there is things out there you should be fearful of. However, most people are afraid of being afraid, as opposed to the reality of everything will be pretty fine, you know. The other thing that box breathing does is that it takes away the debris from your body, and most of that debris is blowing out carbon dioxide. Now, carbon dioxide is a very efficient chemical in your body. It's actually a waste byproduct, and it does all sorts of things, but stressor chemicals find it much easier to attach themselves to carbon dioxide than they do to what you breathe in, which is a lot of oxygen. All of the positive chemicals, adrenaline, some forms of cortisol, so on as endorphins, so on and so forth, find it very easy to attach to oxygen. So the more oxygen you have in your body, and the less carbon dioxide you have in your body, the less stress you will feel. So how do we do box breathing? Well, as I said, you can do it with zero resources at any time, any place that you want to. You can do it lying in bed, you can do it sitting down, you can do it in your car, you can do it on top of a mountain, by a waterfall, or by any other point that you could get to. So box breathing is very simple. It runs on 4 4-second periods of time, with the total pattern, so 4 4s are 16, with a total 16-second pattern being repeated 10 to 15 times. So this is going to take at most 4 or 5 minutes. And so the very, very first thing that we do is we breathe in for 4 seconds. And then we hold it for 4 seconds. And we blow out for 4 seconds. And by blow out, I mean blow out everything that you've got in your lungs for 4 seconds. And then we hold the empty lung for 4 seconds. And then we repeat, starting with breathing in for another 4 seconds. When we breathe in, we're looking to flood our body with every part of our lung with as much air as possible, and hold it. And then when we breathe out for those 4 seconds, we're looking to empty our lungs and our body of everything that's inside there, and hold it, and then repeat. So box breathing, remarkably simple. If I was to make a suggestion for you, practice can make perfect. And so why wait to the time when you're really fearful or really panicked, really concerned, really worried or really stressed about something to start practicing this, when you could start right away? So that when it comes to that time of being fearful or panicked or not feeling particularly clear-headed or not feeling particularly resourceful, you've practiced to the point where it's second nature. I hope that's of some use to you. In the next session that we're going to spend together, I'm going to use several other, or give you several other techniques and tools that you can use to manage your fear, to crush it and to conquer it in the outdoors. However, if I was to make a simple request for this next episode that I bring, it's that you're not driving at that point in time when you listen to it or watch it, because that might not be amazingly good for you. Let me know what tools and techniques you use to conquer your fear, or things that you've tried that do not work. Let me know those in the comments. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and why not give it a big fat share on Twitter or Facebook to your friends so that they too can help manage their fear and have a greater, better time in the outdoors. Stay awesome. My name's Rob Yates, and you are incredible.